I'm Agent Brendan, reporting from some safe house saloon somewhere downtown with my top secret character profiling of the man who calls himself the custodian of Doctor Who, its protector and guardian. Black Guardian, surely, but without the velvety, demonic Valentine dial tones. Yes, I'm talking about Russell T Davies. My spies on the ground and field agents have reported back, and a disturbing pattern is emerging that shows this man is not RTD1. He's merely a doppelganger. Now, look at these examples of Davies' diatribes we've found recently. Doctor Who boss reveals why he will never explain this mysterious 73 yards moment. Never explain. We've got here from the Devil's Cord. It was too boring to explain. Why explain that you've turned into a song and dance routine? But I see no need to explain it whatsoever. This is talking about Mrs. Flood. My sister doesn't blink when Mrs. Flood talks to the breaks the fourth wall. Oh, okay. Mrs. Flood may never be explained. And then we've got, but the BBC, the production team, all the Doctor Who officers, they know exactly why the fourth wall has been broken. But I'm not showing any signs, says RTD, of putting that on screen. Wow. So what we've got here is, can't be bothered to tell us, won't tell us, but everybody who needs to know knows. That's nice. So here I am here today in my Sensephere saloon, and I'm going to be looking at, and we've got a new profile, a new dossier set up, and we've codenamed it the Great Intelligence, RTD and Doctor Who, the Great, I said intelligence there, the Great Indulgence. RTD seems to be using Doctor Who as his indulgence of friends, scoring points, signalling his pretend virtues. He wants his preferences and politics indulged, but anyone who dares question is dismissed, ignored. He will not indulge anyone else's query, yet his have to get free rein. Refusing to explain hints at laziness, not being bothered to indulge fan and interest, that he feels powerful and privileged enough that he does not have to justify anything to anyone. Autocrats hate being questioned. They rule by decree, like retconning Davros. RTD is acting like the collector in the Sunmakers, imposing harsh taxes with immediate effect at the flick of a button to get more Talmars. What I have assessed is a psychological predilection to be nasty, to be brutish in his execution of his showrunning powers. If you don't like what he does, you're not a true fan. You are dismissed. This is the court of Russell T Davies. Yet he has preached that he wants a kinder, more emotional doctor for these dark times. Yet in his bullets from his privileged preaching pulpit, he shoots down those who question, acting dark, brutish, rude, dismissive, and harsh to anyone, any Doctor Who fan who questions what he's doing. This is hypocrisy of the highest order. His CV says he's an award-winning storyteller. So start telling stories, will you, RTD? Stories that can have mystery and ambiguity in part to build tension and intrigue, but ultimately with clear denouements that make rational sense. That is the art and skill of a storyteller. I mean, let's be honest, even Scooby-Doo, yes, even Scooby-Doo writers respected their viewers. Even Scooby-Doo, at the end of every program, would explain who did it and how they did it. Respect to viewers. So if they can do it, why can't RTD? This storyteller, RTD, is so lazy with his storytelling that he fails to explain his ideas in the actual plot and in the actual script, but loosely speculates on the legacy of his own decisions in Unleashed later. He cannot even be bothered to craft an explanation in the script through character action or dialogue. And this refusal to explain or justify or clarify indicates another worrying psychological affliction, a tendency for arrogance, hubris, mixed toxically with a missionary zeal that he's right and everyone else is wrong. What other job can you make decisions with impunity? Executive policies enacted and edicts without questioning or having to explain or having to persuade. Now, these are worrying signs for our Doctor Who show and where RTD is taking it and whether anyone is checking on him, providing any checks and balances or challenging him in any way. And here's a few examples of recent note to clarify, justify, explain my point. Notice RTD, how the rest of us do that out of respect for our viewers. We don't just rant and we don't just say things without backup. Maybe you want to try it. Mavity. Take a look at this. The Mavity example we've all been seeing recently. I tell you what I've highlighted here, and you know me, I codify it. Red is where, and I'm thinking, oh, that's a very dodgy statement. Amber in the middle, green is normally okay. But take a look at this. It's not resolved is Mavity. It's permanent. It's very funny. Okay? It makes him laugh. It's enormously funny. All the comic strip people, all the novel people are having to adapt to it. What a great wheeze. This is immensely creative for him. So what is this? The Great Indulgence, as I say. That you are doing this for a laugh. You are doing this for a bit of fun. Now, normally when you're looking for a bit of fun and a laugh, it's because you're bored rigid. I just don't think the show's for you, RTD, because you don't want to respect its rules. You just want to impose your own. And because you're bored and you've done it before, you want to just absolutely change everything in sight. So, yeah, we've done this Mavity nonsense with no thought, no planning process. Nobody's asked questions at Bad Wolf. You can do what you want because can you imagine saying, I'm going to change one concept in the whole franchise. I'm going to have an arc that covers the whole series of this very expensive show. But there's no thinking behind it. I don't really know why I'm doing it, but it's a laugh. So am I allowed to do it? Oh, yeah, you go for it, mate. We were only spending millions on this. That's amazing. I can't believe a showrunner's been given that much power. Or the others are just nodding heads. So I'll grant him this is mischievous at best, what he's doing. But let's be honest here. This is just trying to bait people, trigger people, provoke people, antagonize, give them a bit of a laugh at the best. I mean, but that's Doctor Who is on its hind legs. Doctor Who needed proper foundations. It needed to be looked after from a proper custodian, safeguarding the program. But what we've got here is somebody who's having a laugh, a wheeze, doing his own indulgences, not being asked and questioned by anybody. So therefore, he's putting the franchise at risk. If he's taking the mick out of the franchise, why should all the other viewers who are being casual about whether they watch Doctor Who or not, why should they invest in it? This is the problem. It's the wrong vibe at the wrong time. At the worst, never mind being mischievous, I think he's being cavalier, reckless, flippant, careless, and disrespectful of the Doctor Who brand. Sounds like there's no brakes on him, and he can have whatever little laugh, little tease he wants. And we carry on. I was only just saying yesterday in our Doctor Who detox, please look in on it. We talked about the Shalka Doctor. Remember that was included in Rogue. And of course, what does he say here? A cartoon character who was called the Ninth Doctor, written by Paul Cornell, was included suddenly as a visual, realistic representation to include, like the brain of Morbius doctors, all that stuff, to be suddenly become canon. Now, what gets me about this is, again, he says, if you look on the right there, he says it was a last-minute call to Richard E. Grant. We weren't sure whether we were going to do it or not. If you weren't sure, don't do it. If you weren't sure, that sounds as though it hasn't been talked through. We watched that parade of doctors initially, he says, and we thought we needed an extra one. That's the fun of it. What are we doing here with the Doctor Who franchise? So we've got the Mavity thing as a fun exercise, And remember, I started this show by talking about the lack of explanation and proudly saying I'm not going to explain to you lot. On top of this, he changes canon, and it's for fun. And it was a last minute decision anyway, so it wasn't really integral and core to the script. I think I'm onto something by saying the Great Indulgence. You carry on with this article. So why did you do it then, RTD? Why are you doing this? If you can't be bothered to tell us why you're doing Mavity instead of the Gravity, why are you putting the Shalka Doctor? So you've got two ninth Doctors, so to speak. Oh, it was a thank you to the show's writer, Paul Cornell. We're old friends. I thought it would be a nice moment. It's really nice when you can do things like that. This is the level of virtue signaling we've come to. This is the level of it now. $1 million franchise that wants and has ambitions to be global in its reach has somebody at the core of it, running it, spearheading it, who's just, can't be bothered to pay for a Moonpig birthday card or thank you card, can't be bothered to buy his, put his hand in his own pocket and buy a gift for somebody to say thank you. He's going to use the whole franchise to do it. Think about this. This is an indulgence. There's no reason in the plot to do it, but he's done it to a friend. This is what he's doing to $1 million franchise. And he carries on. When he was talking to the two co-writers, Kate Herron and Bryony Redman, who, remember, haven't written any sci-fi ever before, don't know the Doctor Who franchise inside out, so they're experts. Davies highlights it was all a bit of fun. Oh, it's just a joke. It's funny. We were talking in the office about whether they wanted an unknown doctor. Why does everybody who comes to our show now want to just have an added little strange doctor, a one-off doctor? Everybody is trying to break this franchise to pieces because they're bored. They can't stick rigidly to canon. They can't stick to the format and the formula. If you joined Coronation Street as a writer, you can't come in saying, I want all the houses moved. You can't join a soap opera and saying, I think Albert Square should be decimated and we're going to move it to Wigan. You can't do big stuff like that. You can't suddenly say in a soap opera franchise, as a brand new writer who's not really watched it for all those years, actually, Pauline Fowler's not the mum of Martin Fowler. No, I've just come up with another mother. Oh, come on. Come on. So this is the level of it now. And he's allowing it, and so are all the other executives at Bad Wolf. So this is all a thank you to Paul Cornell. But the other thing he said in that article, so number one, I won't explain unless I want to. We do things for a laugh and a great wheeze we do, and also because they're bored. And then on top of that, I'm always going to protect my friend Chris Chibnall's idea of the timeless child because it opens the door for RTD, as he says there, to do anything he wants with the Doctor Who programme without questioning and without challenge. It's there. He thinks he has got everything to how he wants now. This is where we're heading. And this just continues. When he talked about Mrs. Flood, there's been numerous articles about Mrs. Flood because people have been asking Susan Twist, Susan Foreman, Mrs. Flood, Ruby Sunder's mum, all the endless questions. And in the end, we were all trumped by the blooming Sutek on the TARDIS, weren't we? Right, as again, I showed you earlier, he won't explain this probably. And he says, her use of the fourth wall might never get an in-universe explanation for why it's happening. Notice when he says in-universe explanation, what he means is he'll sit on the couch in Unleashed or one of those video commentaries, and that's when he might speculate. It's not pinned down, but I'll speculate that it could mean that, and it could mean this. It's quite fun, really. You can just see this. This is indulgence of the highest order. So, Mrs. Flood, who we were speculating about, is she the Rani? Is she? Well, he doesn't really know. And he doesn't know why she's breaking the fourth wall. And I don't know if I really want to tell you why. So, he shows signs of doing the superficial wrapping for a series arc with clues and characters, but he's not bothered to give the show integrity and realism and jeopardy by bothering to explain these characters or how they fit into this universe. And as he says, it might never be explained. He goes on though. He says that in the Starbeast script, okay, there is actually a reason for it that was in an early draft of the Star Beast for breaking the fourth wall, but I see no need to explain it whatsoever. And then he mentions that his sister doesn't blink when a character turns to camera and gives them a wink. Well, that might be, oh, what do I do then? The toy maker. That's all right then. Oh, if your sister allows it, that's all right then. Feel free, mate. Do what the hell you want to the franchise, because your sister wasn't looking at that point as she was having a tea. I mean, I don't know. What has she got special status? Paul Cornell's got special status to suddenly get rogue scans of doctors changed. You know, if you're a friend like Chris Chibnall, oh, I won't touch your work, but I might touch Verity Lambert's, and I might wreck Robert Holmes's, and I might completely change Terry Nation's Davros. But oh no, my sister doesn't blink, so it's all right, and I'm not explaining to you a lot, you riffraff. My sister's all right with it, and the production team are happy with my reason for using the fourth wall, so I should have to tell you a lot. Tell you what, public service, it's in the gutter. So we move on. We move on. I mean, honestly, it's unreal, isn't it? He says here, while the doctor's own wink to camera in the Devil's Card was seemingly just for fun. Are you starting to get the picture here? I won't explain unless I want to, unless I want to. I don't have to. And I'm doing lots of things for laughs and fun and thank yous. Nothing about plot integrity. Nothing about saving the franchise. Nothing. So, you know, think about the 723 yards I won't explain. Think about this. It is it's an absolute shocker, I have to say. Absolute shocker, I find. And remember, I'm going back to this. This is a killer line, isn't it? It's very interesting within the Doctor officers. We know exactly why the fourth wall happens, and yet I'm showing no sign of putting that on screen. So you've got insiders and outsiders. Those who are told to touch grass if they question or don't like something. Partly, it might be because we haven't had an explanation, and so we don't know why you're doing stuff. But you will tell your friends, and you'll tell the people within your office, the insiders, the privileged ones, the powerful ones. But the rest of us who buy all the merchandise, the rest of us who went through the wilderness years, the rest of us who bought that stupid Doctor in Distress record to try and save the program, the rest of us who have invested years and years and years in this brand, no, we are not worthy of an explanation. And this is the man who says he's kind, he's a lefty, he's a progressive, he's so bothered about the world, and he cannot be bothered to look after the viewers who have watched this program for years. There's something wrong with that message. Something massively wrong. He's on his own great indulgent tour of Europe, isn't he? Of the whole universe. I'm just going to do my thing, my way. And there, look, do you want evidence? I'm never going to tell you what she says in 73 yards. Never. End of. Bye-bye. Off you go. And we'll carry on. Another article. The Devil's Cord. We all heard yesterday about how the Devil's Cord had a scene in the final edit cut out. Why could that be? Well, he explains here, and I've put it in orange. I'm very amber and red at the moment. There's one scene we deliberately cut at the end of Devil's Cord, actually, because they run onto the rooftop, and there was a scene where the Doctor said, "Oh, time's going to go crazy now. Music is flooding back in, and everything's going to be strange for 10 minutes to kind of explain why they burst into song." Wait, okay. I mean, you could unpack so much here. So the music floods in. Everything's going to be strange. Then they sing a song. This is just exuberance. Exuberance in writing. No root discipline. It's not Doctor Who. It makes no sense. It's cartoon level writing and intellect. Think of it another way. The plot is done. It's resolved. You know, Maestro's gone. So this is all unnecessary padding. Indulgence, I think, is the other word I might use. There's no focus on another 10 minutes of jeopardy or tension. There's no 10 minutes extra of adventure that he could have written if he could be bothered. Remember, if he just types in the script, dance sequence and Murray Gold, you better get a song written, that's a line. He's not writing another 3 or 4 lines of script. Think about it, 3 or 4 pages of script, is he? Do you know, I'll finish the story early and then you orchestra people have to do something. Can you over there do something? You compose something. Right, next. What's my next script? Honestly, you do start to wonder what the hell's going on here. So we needed 10 minutes of song and dance because music's flooding back in such a basic, immature, silly, nonsensical way. I mean, God, no wonder he wanted to go for fantasy. So the scene passed all. I mean, this is what I want to challenge. So when he wrote this script, a 45-minute, 50-minute script about lots of things that are different to normal Doctor Who, let's be honest. And when they read that the last 10 minutes, that the story finishes early, almost as if there wasn't much of a plot. And then there's a big song and dance routine with Shirley Ballas and everything. And they all went like nodding heads. Oh, yeah. 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 I think we'll go for that. I mean, what do these executive producers do? I mean, they're breeding in number. The number of executive producers on Doctor Who, they're the size of an NHS board now. Oh, the lefties love meetings, don't they? And chat and justify their own positions and love to big it all up. Davos is problematic. Oh, let's have a meeting. Do you want a coffee? Let's not explain the theme I will revisit. So this 10 minutes got through an editorial meeting, got through a producers meeting with all these nodding heads of highly paid executive producers going, this is what Doctor Who needs. Oh, well done. This is outstanding. So music floods back. And for 10 minutes, instead of more drama and excitement and fun and death, you're going to do this. All right. Yeah. More. Here's another £1 million. I am starting to wonder about their rationale about all of this. I mean, remember, they've also rubber stamped Space Babies. They've also rubber stamped 25% of the season being Dr. Light. They've also rubber stamped that instead of him coming up with his own ideas, even in the specials, that he did Beep the Meep from a comic strip. Not his idea. He calls it a tribute. Like it was the Rogue inclusion of the Shalka Doctor was a thank you to Paul Cornell, and now a thank you to my friends on the comic strip from the late 70s, early 80s. There you go. Oh, God, he's a great man. No plot, no thinking. Gosh, if you had to do that, you just grab other people's work and just throw it. Actually, just throw it at the screen and hope for the best. And they're just nodding this through. Why have you brought RTD back? Where's RTD's thinking? Oh, and then he goes on. Let me get the right page up here. He says in the article about the Devil's Cord, a scene being cut, and they're glad because why should we explain to you why they're going to be dancing at the end? You'll have to work it out. In the green bit there, he gives us a little morsel about the Christmas episode. Oh no, Christmas and RTD. Oh my God, what a toxic combination now. He said it's going to be mad. It's going to be one of the maddest Christmas specials you'll ever see. It's epic. It goes to so many different places. And it's a great story of who the Doctor is when he's alone. Oh my God. Shall we unpack again, folks? I don't mind the potential of him saying a great story of who the Doctor is when he's alone, because I'm thinking Deadly Assassin. I'm thinking Heaven Sent. But when I'm thinking of this Doctor on his own, what, crying on his own? Twerking on his own? Other things that rhyme with that? Cruising? Dancing? Nightclubbing? Or writing love letters to Rogue in case he bumps into him again? Or Sunday pub lunches with the 14th Doctor who is sick of gardening for Donna? Not quite Deadly Assassin level. Not quite Heaven Sent level. So when you talk RTD about, oh, a great time to have a story with the Doctor on his own. Yeah, I'm troubled to think what you'll do with that one. So I'm not as excited as you are, RTD. Mind you, who are we to say we want more explanation? Please indulge us, RTD, because when he does actually explain, I think we need to think of that phrase, be careful what you wish for, because as we know with Davros, he did explain himself, and boy, did we hate the answer. The problem with the Davros of old is that he's in a wheelchair and he's evil. We had problems with that. The fiefdom's going. I say this is how we see Davros now. This is what he looks like, and we are absolutely standing by that. When you do, you see, this is it. When you do ask a question and seek clarification, or you seek an explanation, you get an absolute, determined, clinical, quite dismissive answer. No more questions, no more campaigning. This is my decision. This is how it's going to be. Basically, implied, shut up. So it's an explanation, but you're not allowed to go. The bi-generation was another example where we got explanation. Of course, not in the program. I mean, cherish the thought that he puts it into the script. No, on Unleashed again, wasn't it? Oh, I tell you what, I'm going to ask you in a moment. What does this make you think of? He says, with the bi-generation. Actually, I've had this idea for years. We also know something else you were thinking about for years. Was it Sutek sat on the TARDIS for 50 years? Growing. Bi-generation. I've actually had this idea for years. I've always wanted, instead of going back and meeting old doctors, I've always wanted the Doctor to talk to his new version. And then he goes on, and look at that last quote there I've highlighted. It absolutely makes me grin. Laughter, humour, puns, being daft, being flippant, being reckless, being careless, all so RTD has a laugh. Rex Canon completely changes what regeneration is, completely mucks up the order of things, because let's face it, he doesn't just stop there. He then speculated, it wasn't in the script. I think all of the Doctors came back to life with their individual TARDISes, and there's now a Doctorverse. And he came up with ideas. Sylvester McCoy woke up in a drawer in a morgue in San Francisco. John Pertwee woke up on the floor in the laboratory. Colin got up and sorted the Rani out. He has said this. So without any thinking, he just sits on the couch with his friends without questioning and says, do you know what? I wrote that script and you never asked me why I did the bi-generation. You just couldn't be bothered. Well, I wonder if this is what happens now. I wonder if this is what it's done. And he's allowed. Doesn't somebody say, well, you're saying this now. I didn't see this in the script. Where the hell is the script editor? Where the hell is anybody asking him questions? This is the shocker, folks. And we all know when he's not questioned what happens. We end up with Sutek sat on a TARDIS, throwing time turds through the time vortex. That's what you get in the end. And can I just speculate? Sorry, how dare I speculate? No. Actually, I was being weak then. No. Can I just actually very absolutely say RTD's given away his subconscious thinking. When RTD has Sutek coming back and ripping up the universe to do what he wants with it, that's what RTD's doing to Doctor Who. It's an analogy. When RTD brought back the toy maker, it was RTD. He's got all the keys to all the toys of 61 years. RTD is the toy maker, the toy wrecker. He's the Sutek the destroyer. We don't have to look at anywhere else. He's putting it in the script. The clues are all there. Never mind Mrs. Flood, Susan Twist and all that. That's small fry. The big clues are there. His big characters are all in his own image of what he's doing to the show. So ultimately, we're in a position where we've got creatives, media executives, writers who cannot stick to rules of the franchise, cannot follow Doctor Who law, cannot work as a team. They're bored. They want change only the big argument about change, and regeneration as a word got a lot of heavy lifting, didn't it? But basically, what you've got here is okay. You've offered me the job again. I've got no new ideas, and I was exhausted the first time round. But oh yeah, gimme, gimme, gimme. What I'll do is I'll just nick lots of other ideas. I won't think it through. I'll just throw it at people, and honestly, if they ask me questions, they're going to get a mouthful. That seems to be where we are. But my question is, if you keep rewriting history and changing history how you want it, you're a dictator. It's 1984. You are a thief. You are a propagandist. You are a denier of truth. The upset caused by the change to Davros was disgraceful. It had no consideration for all the investment people had put into that character. If the history of society and culture is ripped up in real life, you lose cohesion in society, you lose unity, and you are ending up with chaos and anarchy. If the history of Doctor Who is being ripped up, you fracture fandom, you end up with a fractured fan base, confused TV viewers, and therefore apathy, and therefore people turning away. That is the problem. They wonder why the ratings have gone down. It's clear. Right. We will keep monitoring all frequencies for further updates in our Doctor Who top secret dossier. Talking of which, I think I'm being tracked and monitored now by the Bad Wolf operatives, the KGB of the media world. I better scoot. Time Agent Brendan checking out. By the way, subscribe to pay my bills while I'm on the run. Subscribe, and I'll see you again.